As a young teenager, Rachel Holder earned a slot performing at a theater near the Dollywood theme park outside Gatlinburg, Tennessee. In 2 years, she honed her singing skills through roughly 800 shows, and that experience is now paying off. She's now signed to Curb Records, and she's working with producer Wilbur Rhymes, who also happens to be the father of another Curb artist, LeAnn Rimes. We had a chance to check in with Rachel to talk about the new music.
I am here with Curb recording artist, Mrs. Rachel Holder. Now, this girl I adore. She's got this personality that reminds me of like a Dolly. I mean, and what's so ironic is when I got to meet with you, you actually know Dolly.
Yeah, she's actually my mentor, and I send her my music, and she writes me back what she thinks. So I actually sent her my first single, which was In Your Arms, and she told me what she liked about it and what she didn't like about it, and so we kind of went from there on the single. So she does that with everything, though, Christmas Eve and Lord Help Me and the future records, so it's cool.
So I wouldn't mind, here I go again. Lord help me now, I'm falling in love.
How in the world do you get to just go, hey, Miss Dolly, what do you think of my music? How did that happen?
Well, my guitar player, Kevin Moore, who actually played with Dolly for about 8 years and worked at Dollywood and everything, he introduced me to Dolly on an employee day at Dollywood because he knows her and everything. And so it was really cool because that's the day I got to hand her one of my CDs and said, hey, what do you think about this? And then after that, a few weeks later, she writes me back in the mail. She's really big on letters, so I really think that's cool. It's kind of old-fashioned, but really personal at the same time.
I love that story. And speaking of Dollywood, you've played there quite a bit, like even as a young child, right?
Yeah, I performed a few times at Dollywood, but I usually performed at a theater outside Dollywood called Country Tonight. And I was 13 and 14 when I did that, and I did about 800 shows.
Wow.
2 shows a day. It was crazy doing that in school.
So you're new to me, but you have been around. I mean, you've been doing this since you were a very young girl. Did you always know, I want to be a singer? I mean, you obviously have the voice for it.
Yeah, I think I always knew I wanted to be a singer, but you know, I always like to say I came out of the womb singing, except my mom says it's crying. So I don't know. We'll see about that. I was like, well, do you have a videotape? I was like, am I actually singing? She was like, Rachel, you never shut up when you were little. I was like, okay, great.
Now, let's talk about your first single because it went to radio. It did really good on the Music Row charts. And you get a tweet one day from a big country star. How was that? And who was it?
It was Miranda Lambert. She tweeted about In Your Arms, and she tweeted to me about how she loved how we had 3 modulations in the chorus and the verse, and then to the big chorus at the end. And if you don't know what a modulation is, that is where it goes up in key every verse. And we had 3 of those in the song, and so she was really excited about to hear that in a song because it hasn't really been done since the 90s. And so it was really cool to see that. I remember I was in the studio that day, and I looked down and I was like, Miranda Lambert just tweeted me, oh my gosh. And that day it was just over with. We stopped then because I just couldn't get over that. They were like, you're not in the mood anymore to sing, just stop.
In your arms, I'm safe inside the harbor. Jumping at the gate to the danger signs. And now it's too late, I have to.
Your current single right now, Lord Help Me, has done really well. And that song was written, the writers on that was Carrie Underwood, I think, is a writer.
It was Carrie Underwood, Ashley Monroe, and Katrina Elam, 3 of my favorite writers, and I was so lucky to get that song in my hands. And it's actually a funny story because a few years ago, I actually passed on that song, and I came back to it about 2 years later and was like, why in the world did I even pass on this song in the beginning? What was I thinking, you know? And so it was crazy because I was just playing my computer one day. Well, when did I signed it 4 years ago. And so,
after that,
yeah. And so I've had the song for about 6 years now. And so I actually passed and I was like, Rachel, you're crazy. But Lord Help Me is my current single and it's doing really well. So I'm really excited about everything. And thank you to Country Radio who's playing it.
Lord, help me now, I'm falling in love.
You just mentioned, and she just threw it out there, Wilbur Rhymes. We all know that name. Now, Wilbur is one of your producers, and he is actually the father of LeAnn Rimes.
Yes, he is. Wilbur is such a character, I tell you. Wouldn't even know he's LeAnn's dad because he's so country, but I love him. But he's so nice. His family is so nice to me, and LeAnn's one of my role models. She's such a great singer, and I'm just so glad to be part of the Curb family. I remember looking at LeAnn's records when I was younger, and I would see that her dad produced her. I was like, wow, that's awesome, you know, they kept it in the family. And then a few years ahead, I'm signed with Curb, and Wilbur's producing me, and I'm working with Chuck Howard and you guys, and I'm just so proud, you know. And every time that I have a moment, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm signed, what? You know, so.
Like a butterfly, you've been wrapped up tight in your safe little world. Yeah, there comes a day when it's time to fly, and today is your day, girl. Mama and Daddy can't hold.
We still have lots of music up ahead, so make sure you keep it right here for more Inside Music Row. We'll take you behind the scenes of a new music video when we come back. Don't go away.